You are listening to the Limitless Podcast. I'm your host, Deanna Herron. What if you had no limitations keeping you from your dream life? In 2016, I had a major tug on my heart to write a book about my story. And in the process, I learned that I had been operating with a very faulty belief system for the majority of my life. I've had a huge transformation since then. And my life's passion and mission is to teach you how to live a limitless life. Join me on this journey. Let's get started. Hello and welcome to the Limitless Podcast. This is your host, Deanna Herron. And as always, I'm excited to be with you. I'm excited for you to join us today. We have an exciting podcast guest. As always, I want to remind you first and foremost that my mission and passion is to help you stand in your truth, because I truly believe that when a woman stands in her truth and her authentic self, she becomes limitless in her impact. And I know that to be true from my story and my experiences is really standing in my truth. You become unstoppable. And so what that means to you is, what is it that is limiting you from becoming your greatest version of yourself? What we are going through right now is the Women Warrior series. And I want you to understand that the reason why I have this Women Warrior series right now is for you. Because most of us look at other women and we look at where they are in their success and we think, you know what? I don't think I can ever be that. They have never had any issues. They've never had any struggles. And I'm struggling right now. I don't know where you are on your journey today, but here's what I want you to know. There is no success without struggle and growth. There is no success. So what I want you to see through the Women Warrior series truly is that in order for you to get there, to get where you want to go, you have to grow. And I have been able to interview many women who I believe are warriors in this world. They continue to do the do, get back up and fight the fight and walk the walk. And today I have one of those warriors with me. And Lacey, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here. I met Lacey through a mutual friend and we had a conversation, and just a beautiful, beautiful soul. So I'm honored to have you.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes. And I would love for you just to introduce yourself to everybody and let them know who you are, what you do, what you are about, and we'll get started in the podcast.
Okay. My name is Lacey. I am a mom to 3 little girls. I was a past surrogate, and oddly enough, that baby was a girl too. I've been married to the lie of my life for 16 years. He's a saint. I've been adopted. I grew up in a drug addicted, abusive, neglectful home. And then when I was 10, I went into foster care, and I got really lucky. And I was able to stay with that family until I was 18 when they officially adopted me. And so essentially, I feel like my mission in life is to help women or other people in general, just to see that we can overcome our circumstances. It's our focus, not our circumstances, and that the stories that we tell ourselves usually aren't true, and just trying to empower people to take control and to realize, like I said, that it's not about our circumstances, it's about our focus. Another thing that I'm really passionate about is that I volunteer for a company called Sapria. They were formerly known as Unique, and I teach classes on prevention of sexual abuse of children and how to spot it, and spreading my experience that way.
I love that, Lacey. What a warrior you truly are. What an amazing story. I love how you said the light of my life. And yeah, that's so true, that you have that person in your life and they truly are a light.
Yes, I am so lucky.
Yes. Yes, I hear you. Thank you for sharing your story. So I'm going to go right into a little bit about the Warrior series and where this all started. Okay. For me, one thing that I have on my wall that I read constantly is, it's just a little saying from Theodore Roosevelt. And that's where this particular series has come from. And I'm going to read it from my wall. It says, "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out the strong man's stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming." And that's something that I truly want everyone to see. So many people will say to themselves, I keep failing. I keep failing.
Mm-hmm.
And I want you to know that there is no error in what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lessons. And
I love that.
Yes. Theodore continues to say, "But who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement?" And so we're talking about arena moments. And I have had so many arena moments in my life. And the arena moment is just where you feel like you're knocked down. And what is it that you've learned through that arena moment, through that particular time, that you were able to get back up and live life and grow through that? And so, Lacey, I'm excited for you to share one of your arena moments.
Oh man, I love that you said that there are so many, because I feel strongly that there are so many in my life. I feel like my entire life has been an arena moment, but the biggest one, I want to say recently, the last 2 years, was realizing that my healing, because of the past that I grew up in, and because of that trauma, that childhood trauma, is not linear. And I lived the longest time. How old am I? 34 years old. I'm 34 years old. And it dawned on me that healing isn't linear, and that you imagine a toddler coloring for the first time or doodling. That's exactly what it is. And I hit this moment. It's been about 2 years now. And it put me on my knees. It put my marriage on its knees. My husband and I were discussing divorce, and I don't feel like I've ever been so low in my entire life, even coming from what I came from. And I realized through that hardship, and this is where like I said before, it's not our circumstances, but it's our focus. And I remember I was so angry because in my mind I thought, I've had a great life. I've had great teachers. I've had therapy. I've had, just a good foundation that I've been building upon. And it made me so angry that these things were still affecting me. And I realized in that moment that I could sit in this mentality of victimhood and woe is me. And when I went into foster care, there were so many statistics about children like me, and the rates of drug abuse, alcoholism, abuse to other people or children, divorce rates, etc. And I remember when I heard that, because it was at a class that my foster parents were at, and I was there too. And I remember hearing that, and I was like, whoa, that is my future. And I was like, no, I don't accept that. And I remember my father, my adoptive father, is amazing, and he's really helped me heal from a lot of the sexual abuse and all that trauma. And he told me, I was discussing it with him, and he said, "You realize that you get a choice, right?" And I remember thinking, well, no, I don't think I do. And I sat on that for a long time. And so that's been essentially my life's mission, is looking at these examples that I had, and deciding that's not my future. And I get to decide, and that is up to me, and that I don't have to be that statistic. And I think that we forget how much is in our control. And we forget how much is in our control. And and we need to try and do everything that we can. And that 2 years ago, it was some trauma that had come up, and I allowed it to affect everything. And it took me a minute to even realize what was happening. And then I realized it, and like I said, my marriage was in shambles. My husband had said, I'm done. I decided I was done. And trying to be a mom through that was so hard. And I was sitting in this really deep, dark place. And I thought, I'm being that statistic right now, and I realized, or I replayed those words that my dad had said. And I thought, I can sit and continue and be a victim, or I can take back control right now and change what I can change, and change primarily my focus, because I couldn't change the circumstances. And so I started doing everything that I could, and I started controlling the things that I could control. I started showing up every day, and that no matter what. And that's the attitude that I realized that I needed to have, especially when things are hard. And we think the lie that we tell ourselves is that when life gets hard, when circumstances show up for us, because we can't control outside circumstances, right? The lie that we tell ourselves is that when life happens, we just throw everything out the window. And what happens with that is things get worse. Well, when end of the school year is over, then I can start eating well again. Or when I'm off vacation, I can start eating well again. Or when the shoulder injury that I have is over, then I can start exercising again. There's so many things that can happen to us, and we need to learn to control what it is that we can control, and show up consistently with those things, no matter what they are. So examples would be the food we eat, to take care of our bodies and our minds, what we read, information that we do or don't let in, who we surround ourselves with, all of these things that are around us. For example, when my husband and I were discussing, divorce, and then we decided that maybe we could try. I remember I couldn't change him, right? And we spend so much of our time trying to change the outside circumstances. We spend so much of our time trying to change other people because it feels easier, but the reality is that we can't. And so I had to look at what I could control and let the rest fall where it may. And in that process, it changed everything. My husband, I wouldn't say that he changed necessarily. It's not like we showed up together and I said, well, you need to do X, Y, Z. I started focusing on what I needed to do and stopped focusing on him. I started going to therapy again and getting my ducks in a row, and realizing that the way that I was responding linked back to this childhood trauma, and had nothing to do with my husband, had nothing to do with my parents, it had nothing to do with my children. It was all me. And so I started working really hard on healing and fixing those things. And what happened was, it was a miracle. And I attribute this to my faith in Heavenly Father and Jesus Christ. And it healed my marriage. And it's been hard. It's been 2 years of really hard work, but we're better than we've ever been. And I'm better than I've ever been. And there was a perspective change, and I've gained so much more gratitude for hard things, because the reality is that we don't change in comfort. We don't grow in comfort. We grow when things are hard. And so I look at hard things or circumstances that are hard that happen around me very differently. Think, okay, how can I use this to grow? Even though it's really hard, and in that moment, it's so hard not to woe is me. And I will say that, I'll give myself a certain amount of time. I'll say, okay, depending on what it is, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to really sit in this and feel it and mourn and accept it. And then I'm done. I'm not going to give it any more time. I'm going to, put my boots back on and we're going to move forward and do what we can do. And so that was my arena moment, I feel. And like I said, I've got so many, but it's changed me in the best ways. And the silver lining is the perspective change that I've gained from it. And I would even say, I was actually discussing this with my husband the other day in anticipation of coming and talking to you. And I said, I gotta know, how do you feel about this? It was really hard. And he's like, I don't ever want to do that again. He said, but I'm grateful. He said, there's so many good moments that came out of that. And he told me, he said, I've watched you grow and it's been really special to see. And he said, and in watching you work really hard on this, he says, it makes me want to work harder and it's changed me. And like I said before, it wasn't that I demanded that he do XYZ. It was that I stopped focusing on what he was or wasn't doing, and I started focusing on what I could control. And it's been really awesome.
So many nuggets in what you said.
Yes.
So beautiful, so beautiful. So I want to go back to one of the things that you shared about being in victim mentality. And just for everyone who's listening, what victim mentality is. I've shared my story on this podcast so many times, but I definitely have lived my life, the majority of my life, in that victim mentality, just believing that people do things to me, circumstances are to me, etc. And so victim mentality is something that we can all experience, just feeling like we've been wronged in some way. But I love how you were able to take that mentality and change your focus, because the reality is the point of our suffering is when we expect a person, a place, or a thing to be different than what it is.
I love that.
Yes. And you were able to really identify, I can only control what I can control. That's so beautiful. So beautiful.
Yeah. And it's so easy to fall into that. And I think that with the way that our brains are wired, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. And it takes so much effort and so much work to recognize it and then to get out of it. And I think for me, the mistake that I made was thinking that it was supposed to be easy, one, and two, that I had to stay there, that I had no control. And I realized that it's a choice. It's a choice that I can stay there, or I can do what I can do and control what I control to get out of it. And I see it a lot. I see it even in my kids, and it's so hard trying to teach them, hey, you get to control how you respond. You can't control what your friend is saying. You can't control the way that your friend is acting, but what you can control is the way that you respond. And what it does is it frees us. It doesn't change that person's behavior, but it frees us from the consequences, I guess you could say.
You take your power back, because in that moment, we have given our power to something outside of ourselves. We've given our power away. And what I love about your story, and so good about our kids, right? When someone takes a toy and we watch our kids get upset and play that tug of war of that's mine, that's mine. It is the same that we do in our life. It's that tug of war of giving away our power. I've given away my power to my career. I've given away my power to money. I've given away my power to people, to circumstances. And the moment I realized that I can create heaven or hell in my life today, and heaven is created by me owning my own power, taking my power back, and not having that victim mentality and expecting something to be different with a person. Yes.
It's so easy to do.
So easy to do. It's interesting that we're having this conversation, because this morning, one of the things that I do first thing in the morning, within 45 minutes of getting out of bed is I write down all the thoughts in my head. I just write everything down, like what I'm feeling, what's coming to my head, etc. And I truly was in a little bit of victim mentality, and I wasn't sure where that came from, but it was actually a conversation that I recognized yesterday, just a very brief conversation. And in that moment this morning, I was able to go, okay, I'm releasing it. I'm releasing it. It was just by writing it down and recognizing that's where I was. So I don't know if you experienced that going in and out of victim mentality.
All the time. It's a consistent battle. And like I said before, that was my mistake in thinking, okay, I'm healed. Like I did all these things. That means, it's uphill from here. What I didn't realize was it's a consistent effort, consistent work, and it's not supposed to be easy. So I love that you said that, because I just got out of one recently, probably a week ago, and it had something to do with PTSD from something that happened, in my past. Anyway, and I was sitting there and I was angry and I was feeling bad, and I didn't even recognize it at first. It took me a minute, and then I was like, I don't want to feel this way. And so that's where I said before is, okay, I need to allow myself to like sit in it and feel in it, or feel it. There's a toxic positivity that I used to fall into too. And I'd be like, no. Anyway, I've realized that it's okay to feel it, but then we can move out of it and work past it. And I love that you do that, because I do the same thing. I call it a thought download or a thought dump. And that's when when I took the time to actually write it out, and I said, oh my gosh, okay, this is what's happening. Now it's time to move forward.
Yes. And I really want to point that out. And you did such a great comeback with that by saying, yes, I still go in and out of victim mentality. And I want everyone to understand that when you do your inner work to heal, you're peeling back layers, and you're peeling back more layers. And as those layers are unpeeled, you may have something else that comes up that you will need to deal with. Ideally, we want to be able to catch those really quick, so we don't stay in that mentality and give our power away for days or weeks or months or years. And that's what you want to look for, is how long does it take me to switch that mentality? And you're so right. Your foster father was a blessing in your life.
Yes. He really was.
You have a choice, is what he said to you. You get to choose whether you're going to experience heaven or hell at this moment, whether you're going to give your power away or whether you're going to take your power. And so what a beautiful, beautiful man in your life.
Yeah. He's taught me everything that I know. And that's the biggest thing, is that I get to decide, and the only person I can control is me. That's
right. Exactly right. So what other tips would you have when you are in that victim mentality mode? What are some tips or tricks that you do to kind of make that switch back into a healthier mindset?
So I have a list that I go through every day, every morning I start, and it's an acronym that my friend actually is the one that created it. I was doing something similar, but this just makes it really easy to remember. And it's a list that I go through. I call it the power list every day. And I notice the days that I'm not doing these things. And part of that, when you ask the question of falling back into that victimhood, was one of those days that I just wasn't doing it. So it's called Mommy, MOMMY. And the first thing that I do in the mornings is I meet with God. And that's the M. So meet with God, or meet with, higher power, whatever you believe in. The O is opportunity for growth. So books or podcasts, just basically trying to personal excellence in my mind, because our minds are our minds are crazy. They're so good, and they're created, a certain way. And anyway, just overcoming our minds. And then the other M is a moment of stillness. So meditation or prayer or just sitting outside in nature and listening. And the next M is movement. So exercise or a walk. I mean, it doesn't have to be complicated. My dad has Parkinson's disease, and he was diagnosed probably about 7 years ago. And this is my foster dad, and he is such an advocate, like I said before, of like controlling you. And he says, I can't control my disease, and I'm not going to feel bad for myself for it. So he's doing what he can do. And the doctors are amazed at how slow he's been able, or how much he's been able to slow down the progression of the Parkinson's.
Wow.
Because of what he's been able to control. And a lot of it is his movements. And he brushes his teeth and does certain exercises while he's brushing his teeth. And it's been really, really cool to watch. And then the Y is the last one. It's yourself. So something simple like showering, a Target run. Sometimes, it's just not in the budget for me to go buy anything from Target. So I make a joke and I say, I'm just a Target. I tell my husband, I need to go touch blankets and smell candles. He's like, okay. So I walk around Target, we just touch blankets and smell candles, and I walk out and I feel great. And then swig, you guys probably don't, we have soda shops here in Utah. We love our soda. And it's a company called Swig, and I go get right now it's called a strawberry breeze. So it's coconut water, strawberries, anyway, other things. And then every once in a while I'll have my Diet Dr. Pepper. So
we actually have Swigs in Oklahoma.
You do?
We have a new one in Oklahoma. Yes, we do. So I'm familiar.
Yes, it's the best. I just love going there.
Yes.
So much.
Yes.
So just a little pep in my day. Oh,
I love this so much. Mommy, what a great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that awesome? So easy to remember.
Yeah. Meet with God. And, one of the things that I do, and we just talked about this, is that brain dump first thing in the morning. So before I can even meet with God, I've got to dump all the stuff that's in my head so that I can be still and meet. Yeah. But that's so beautiful. Great to remember, you guys. So mommy, MOMMY, meet with God. O is for opportunity for growth. M is for a moment of stillness, meditation. M is for movement, and Y is for yourself. So remember the Target runs, the swig, and maybe it's just taking a shower. So amazing tips, amazing tips. Well, Lacey, you are just honestly a treat. And yes, what you have shared today is going to impact a lot of women. And so I appreciate you being willing to be vulnerable and sharing your story with us. You have just you've been a light in my day. So thank you. Yeah. Thank you for that. How can people get in touch with you? Follow you on Instagram? What's your Instagram?
It's the.Lacey.Marie, Marie. Super easy.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. And you guys, what a warrior she is. Go and follow Lacey. Just as precious as she is on this podcast, she is on her Instagram as well. So go give her some kudos and high fives and a lot of likes and loves. And I am so grateful for you to be a part of this community. I'm grateful that you as a woman are willing to grow into that greatest version of yourself. And when you do that, you give all of us permission to do the same. So stand in your truth, my friend. Stand in who you're created to be and watch the impact that unfolds before you. I believe in you. Have an amazing, amazing week. I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday. God bless.